Good morning, YouTube land. I was gonna say TV land, but it's not TV. Make sure.
What's TV? I've heard of it.
Talk some. I I was thinking about So I've been reading. There's Energon Universe comics. I don't know if you've heard of these, but
I have not.
Ralph and Vector were talking about Green Lantern, and this came up, and I learned about them. So there's a Skybound and Image are doing the Energon Universe, which is Void Rivals, which is an original comic, and then there's a Transformers comic and a GI Joe comic, and they're all kind of like intermixed. And the Junkie Hounds just appeared in one of the issues. So it was Wreck-Gar being like, "We talk TV."
Wreck-Gar
TV land thing.
Yeah, and you're like, yeah, that's really old, buddy. Like, does Wreck-Gar get updated? Or there's like a whole other species that only surf the internet, maybe of like long lost Transformer.
That would be interesting. I haven't seen that one.
In memes.
They would be the worst. They'd be even worse than the Junkie Hounds. Knowing the internet,
they would.
At least TV. You know, when the Junkie Hounds were made, TV in the '80s was pretty well curated, and I don't want to say censored.
Sure.
Isn't. I mean, it is censored, but like,
I mean, it's corporate controlled.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit more centralized,
but
which is kind of weird. Sorry, I'm pausing on there to think about like, oh, like why am I like holding up? When corporations are under control, we're nice, but when you let the people go, we're horrible. I'm like, oh, that's a weird idea. Sorry. Anyways, you were saying Wreck-Gar.
I mean, that's kind of the whole point of this stream format, Brick, is just let it go. Just go on. But yeah, Transformers that learned language from being connected to the internet. They'd be like AI, wouldn't they? Like the way that we know, because that's how the large language models are trained mostly, was all on like forum posts and like,
oh, that's freaking scary. Jesus.
Let's say hi to Shiny Plastic People is here. Nick Gillinger's here. Thanos Copter is here. Good morning, everyone. I'm sure Quip will show up at some point. He's usually been here for these. He's over on
folks
GDL now, huh? Doing
Quip, yeah.
You like
I'm responsible for that.
Come on. You brought him on to the news, the needless ephemera we saw, news. And like you discovered him. You discovered Quip. You were responsible for Quip's rise to stardom.
I didn't discover him. I mean, that's what I do, and I know we'll get into it, but like it's just excuses to hang out with like people. It's like, hey, let's hang out.
That's what this is.
Yeah, totally. And this I respect it and can appreciate it.
This is all based on an old Eddie Izzard joke where he was talking about Pope Benedict. Ooh. And he's like, he did apologize for the Spanish Inquisition. It was far too inquisitive. It was supposed to be the Spanish casual chat. Speak of the devil,
man,
and he shows up.
Quip, what's up? You just sort of like have brought us back. First, you're talking about Wreck-Gar, and we went to television and life before the internet. Then you went to Pope frickin' Benedict and Eddie Izzard. I'm just like, man, what's next? Let's talk about Motown. Can we talk about classic Motown? Anyway, sorry.
Speaking of actually, I found this. There's this radio station, and it seems like it's a new format. It's one of those, like, you know, Froggy country music. Every city has a Froggy, and they all play the same stuff. This one's called Jack FM. So I went to the post office to drop off a figure that I sold, and on the way, they played. When I first got into the car, it was "I'm Just a Girl" by No Doubt.
Oh, geez.
Followed by
let's talk No Doubt.
Followed by the Slim Shady. I forget what's the name of the song.
Yeah, I'm Slim Shady.
Without Me. Slim Shady, his Without Me, the
sure.
follow up.
Which I
Followed
tried to do in
by
karaoke. Hard.
followed by I forget what the third song was, but then it was Natalie Imbruglio's Torn, which is also old Geek Dad Life lore. And then
wait, is that Torn? No, that's Lisa Loeb.
yeah, that's Lisa
Anyways, keep
Loeb.
going.
Man, that was a 90s crush if there ever was one. I had a huge crush on Lisa Loeb from that video. Natalie Imbruglia too. Formative years. And then the last song was Billy Joel My Life. So this is like, but the other day they played Thriller. I haven't heard Thriller on the radio in decades. So I love the format of this radio station. It's like, it's great. Yeah. Oh, Shiny Plastic People. Oh, we have Jack FM. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's totally made for your age group. Is that what it is?
I guess so. Yeah, there you go.
Notice I said your age group. I just wanted to be clear.
Quip, I don't know if you saw, I responded to your Instagram message, Quip. I have not gone to see Sinners yet, and I probably will not end up making it to the theater to see Sinners. I'm sorry.
All right, hold on. No. See, that was one of my orders of business. I know we were casual for a second, but you need to go. Sorry. Are we? What's our rating? PG. Oh, anyways, you have to watch. Sinners.
Yeah, I want to try. Let's do PG-13. You get one F-bomb. I want to try to keep it.
That's fine.
Because that was one of the things I've seen with Seth Saffron Olive over at MTG Goldfish. He gets a lot of people who say on his streams that they appreciate that he never swears in their videos because they can pull it up and watch it while their kids are in the room and this and that and the other thing. So like streaming stuff that we do like Friday night when we're covering shows that kids shouldn't be watching anyway, like Severance. We go all out. But for these casual chats, I want to try to keep the swearing absolute minimum.
Sure. Swearing's out. But anyway, you need to watch Sinners. Like there's no excuse. I know. No. Just don't open your mouth. Just other than to say yes, I'm buying my ticket right now. You have to go watch Sinners. Easily one of the best films, period, I would say. And you know, I have, for multiple reasons, I love this film, but it made me, I got teary, I got like chills. And I will just say from a film perspective, the way he is able to show a story, not tell a story with like such economy, but communicate so much. So you're still not allowed to speak unless you're going to say, yeah, I'm on Fantango and I'm buying my ticket. You have to go watch it. I don't care if it's IMAX, or here, how about this? So I'm gonna hear you. Come on, I need your allyship here. Just buy a ticket, don't go. Just support the film. Just buy the ticket, don't go. Buy two, and then we'll and then you can start talking again.
I could do that. My thing was everybody was like, "Oh, it's great. You need to see it in like big format. It was shot for IMAX." Blah blah. I'm like, I can't do that because like my theater is not showing it in. First off, the closest legit IMAX theater to me is Pittsburgh, which is 2 hours west.
No.
Second, the my AMC has the Big D, like their big digital 3D laser, whatever, which is like their
PG-13.
Their knockoff IMAX. But no, it's legit called the Big D. There is a sign on the building that says Big D. Somehow that got through loads of approval steps. They knew what they were doing.
Glad to know Kayla is still here in spirit. But yes.
Mine was in their big format theater. It was, I forget what movies it was. I looked last weekend. We talked about it. It was like, what was the new?
Lilo and Stitch, Mission Impossible.
Yeah, it was Mission Impossible was like the majority of the things in Big D, and Lilo and Stitch was the other one.
as much as I would love for you to experience Sinners in the pristine IMAX, all of that, brass tacks, just support the movie because I think one, it's beautiful, it's great. You missed out, so that's the tax you're paying. And no, I don't. You do what you want to do, but I'm just telling you, it's a fantastic movie. Aside from whether you're watching it on the IMAX or whatever, it is a damn good story. And for me, the like sort of historical significance that's sort of mixed into that film, there's all sorts of little moments in there that are just like, wow, this is great. I'm a full disclosure for those of you who aren't familiar, I'm a history teacher. I also teach ethnic studies, and all of that blends perfectly into what Ryan Coogler does as a human being in all of his work. And shout out to Oakland because he's a product of the Bay. So
Nice. I did see a friend of mine post on Facebook that they were watching it actually with their teenager. He's like 16, 17 years old at this point. Um,
mhm.
and Jesus. You have to try the Big D at least once. That's what they
Wait, hold on. Pause. Let's pause. This guy is gonna show up here this morning when I'm on his show last night, and he's like, "Peace. No, I'm not. Bricks on, highly posable. I'm not showing up." Okay, KJ, I see you. Real tough though. I hope you're good. I hope you're good. But if you, like I said last night, if you're good and you're healthy and you just weren't there, all right, that's it.
I want to come to this. Thanos, I am not doing this for the kids. I'm doing this for people with kids. Just to be clear. This
He's
is for
doing it
people
to be monetizable. He doesn't care about those people and their kids.
honestly,
Come on.
we've been stuck at like 494 subscribers for like 8 months, and I don't care personally. I'm just doing this for fun and to make myself get up before noon on a weekend. Um,
Yeah,
but I
man, we're
definitely
here. It's bright and early, man.
that's what everybody I know except Chris has been everybody who's been on except Chris Plastic has been Pacific Coast. So it's all like 8 a.m. for all of you. And I appreciate everybody getting up early and
No, yeah. I,
coming
I will
on.
say, I was on Highly Posable last night. KJ wasn't. Whatever. You keep laughing with your emojis. But I was on last night and that ran till like midnight or so my time. So my
Okay.
challenge is, and I probably sounded like an old man because I was like, oh man, like once I'm in a movie theater after 7 o'clock, I'm like falling asleep, which is true. And a lot, I was saying, playing up, I'm old, which I am. But the issue is that I teach. So my body just wakes like today, like literally, I set my alarm to 7, which is like a joke. That's like a just in case because I woke up at like 5:40 and like was
Mm.
out of bed by 6. So it's just like my body's just even if I stay up, I could stay up till 3 and still wake up before 6. It sucks. So
Yeah. Yeah. When you get into that pattern, it can be
yeah,
hard to break, even when you want to be like, I'm gonna sleep in. No, you're not. You're up at the
no,
crack of dawn regardless. Um, to circle back, I do definitely intend to watch Sinners. I just don't know if I will make it to
okay,
the theater to do so. But I did
okay.
see my friends, one of my Facebook friends posted that they were watching it with their kid, the teenager who was like
Oh, right.
16, 17 years old. And they're,
Mhm.
they posted it as dialogue. They're like, the kid goes, I thought this was supposed to be like supernatural stuff. Give it time. 30 minutes later. Oh.
Hey,
Because I haven't
no,
heard
it
much
it
about it except that it apparently is a vampire movie. That's like all I know about it. That's all I've heard.
it is. So you're familiar with Ryan Coogler's work. Like if you go back to his films, like Fruitvale
I
Station, which is very Bay Area, Oakland. That was Oscar Grant. Like hit the slaying of Oscar Grant at Fruitvale Station here on Bart. Um, and so that's real topical. It's heavy. It's about police brutality. I mean, It is. It's surrounding one particular case, but it's very a case that's like, what am I trying to say? It's representative of a lot of people's lives, and so just
Mhm.
like regard the police brutality, of course, but aside from that, you kind of sort of see his life in Oakland, and like that's like anyway, that's a lot of my students. That's the folks that I used to work with in West Oakland and organize with. So seeing that on film was huge. Off the bat, I was like, dude, Ryan Coogler is great. The way that movie's cut and everything, all about it. But then he becomes Ryan Coogler, who's doing Black Panthers. So he's like taking my
Mhm.
nerdy community organizing, admittedly lefty, like not admittedly like proud, but people are like
Mm.
woke, whatever, lefty sort of stuff. And then freaking Black Panther comic books and mesh that ish. And I'm just like, cool, I'm all about it. And then now he's doing like vampire stuff, but mixed with deep history. Like I don't want to. I'm not. It's not spoiling it because I think most people wouldn't catch this. But I will say there are indigenous folks, native folks in this that play tiny, tiny role, but a significant one historically in it. There are Irish folks that play again well, not tiny, but they play a role in this, and most people like it would just sort of wash over them. And then of course all the characters. There's like Chinese folks in this. There are Black folks, of course, but all of it is super intentional. Ryan's like he's that dude, Coogler, like is studied, is knowledgeable, works with good people that inform him. And all that to say, and I know people are like, yeah, woke, whatever, but it's like thoughtful and put into a beautiful work of art. See, Johnny's like, I'm out of here. No, but like, go watch Sinners. Period. You all need to watch Sinners. Yes, it is so good.
So is it
Cliff knows
like
what's up.
in any way similar to like Lovecraft Country?
It has I'll just say yes. If I'm not sure what you're referring to. I mean, I do, but you haven't
As far
explicitly
as
said
like
it.
the
But yes,
historical the
yes,
real historical events that are tied
yes,
into that particular time
sure,
period,
yeah,
uh, mixed with
yes.
like supernatural stuff.
That and Watchmen, the HBO Watchmen, a similar vibe
Mhm. Kind
of
of like
that. But
like Abraham Lincoln vampire. What if Abraham Lincoln was a vampire hunter? But all the other historical stuff is true, but here's what
okay,
you
and
didn't know.
yes, yes, and so I'm you've got me on, so I'm stuck here. So you can't get rid of me. And sorry for anybody
That's
this
fine.
bothers anyone, but I will say, what is it? Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer. Yeah, but that was done by white people.
Yeah,
This
well,
is
yes.
these are stories. These are done in a way that are clearly informed by people's both experience and a certain like connection to the history where they're like, I really want people to understand this aspect that we haven't seen on screen. And I actually don't even know who wrote Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer, but
I'm
I
not
just
sure.
think that the people behind the camera or behind the keyboard are it matters where they're coming from. I'll say it that way. It actually doesn't matter. I don't believe it like matters like, oh, their skin tone is this, so therefore they can do a good movie. No, it's more about how well they've studied and understood and embraced certain ideas. Um, and sometimes it's easier to do that when you've lived certain things and you see things from a particular way and you're like, okay. Anyway, that's my spiel. And I will just add that at the end of the day, I think it creates some freaking good entertainment because as someone who has inhaled movies and TV and comic books and toys since I was born in 1976, like I've seen a lot of media and you start to there's a certain like, oh, okay, I've seen this, but then when something truly fresh comes out because they actually let somebody different make something, you're like, why haven't I seen this before? So
Uh,
there.
Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter was written by Seth Graham Smith, who is definitely a white man, and
I
directed
mean,
by Timur Bekmambetov, who is a Kazakh-born
Timur.
Russian film director, producer, screenwriter, and tech entrepreneur. Apparently,
Yeah,
uh,
well, I just heard tech entrepreneur and
Yeah.
checked out. Right.
Yeah,
Because
for
I'm
real.
biased and a jerk.
Nick says he saw some interesting conversations around Asian Americans in the Black community. The actions and symbolism in the movie feel very intentional and definitely warrants interesting conversations.
I want to see that. Nick, send me links, please. But absolutely, like there. I'll just say this: in the era of the internet, we were just dissing the internet because of Rekka earlier,
Yeah,
and I hope this is properly meandering conversation for
this
your format.
is fantastic. There is no format.
Okay,
I mean,
perfect.
there's
That's the
no
format.
topic, no format. Just this is perfect.
So we were just dissing, well, talking negatively about the idea of like an alien transformer species who gets taught to speak and whatever based on the internet, because the internet can be pretty damn trashy. That said, if you know where to look and the algorithm sees you for who you are and what you're searching, you get some pretty cool stuff. And as a history teacher, as a person of color with a certain awareness or consciousness or whatever, I get fed some amazing stuff. And that I will say, the internet has also allowed space for certain stories and information to be accessed. Like there's some great like stuff on Black history, in particular Asian American history, and you just unpeel this stuff, and it's the kind of stuff that, like, it reveals history, like stuff you didn't know, like anyway, it's the kind of stuff that basically makes people want to pass laws and make it impossible for you to study these things in school. That's the kind of, like, I think it freaks people out, but I love it, man. There's some great info. Yes. See, E. McNeil, what's up? So keep it coming, people, so we can continue to shame this guy for not having seen Sinners yet. Keep it coming. Tell him what he's missing, man. Yeah, and I totally get it, Nick. Please, yeah, just sending it would be great.
Quip says no spoilers, but as a parent, I think the Asian woman's actions are more defendable than they appear on the surface. My wife and I have had some really great conversation around Sinners.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the longer I don't see it, and the more people try to convince me to see it, the more hyped I'm getting to actually see this
Yeah.
movie, because everybody has
No.
been just absolutely praising it. So,
And you're a connoisseur of film. I know you will, like, and have content too, but like just some of the technical stuff, the way they were able to sort of film Michael B. Jordan together, as you're aware of that sort of story conceit, that he plays
no,
twins.
no, I was
Oh,
not, but I mean, okay,
yeah, it's not hidden. It's like in the thing,
yeah,
but yeah,
they did that.
but there's cool stuff.
Amy Camp played a set of twins in the final season of You, and it was really, they did a good job. It was really difficult to tell that she wasn't two separate people on the screen. Like that kind
Yeah.
of like that kind of thing, having the same person play two different people and be on screen at the same time has gotten so good lately.
Yep. And I mean, it's to the point of like showing off, like the way they're doing stuff where they're like passing cigarettes and stuff, and it's
Oh wow.
perfect. It's wild. So it's cool.
Kind of those
And if you're a
we're gonna
music
do
nerd,
this because we can.
yeah, and if you're a music nerd, oh man, there's so much good. And stay till the end. If Ferris Bueller or the Marvel Universe or Cannonball Run, I'm just trying to think like old and new, taught me anything, it's that as well as my friends who work in movies and dude from Lucasfilm one time was like, no, sit down, you're watching credits because we're gonna recognize every. But stay till the end. Even if you think, oh, it's just that little thing, okay, I'm gonna leave now. No, stay till the end. And besides, like I said, I was taught, yeah, dude, you should just recognize, like, that's the one moment where you're gonna see these people's names who came together and worked really hard to give you a cool 2 hours. So,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
recognize.
my friend, Chris lives out in L he was the first casual chat guest, and he taught me to sit through the credits and make sure because it's a different experience out in LA when you go to a movie theater, especially if you went to like we went to see something at the ArcLight. I don't think anybody in that theater left before the credits were over. Everybody
Oh, of
sat
course not.
and watched everything. It was a very interesting and it didn't have like I forget what we saw, but there wasn't even like an after credit scene. It's just everybody waited until all the credits were done.
Yeah, and there's a practical end to that. It's LA. So they're all there, like, they don't wanna be shamed because they want a job someday, and they don't wanna be that, "Hey, that guy walked out of the credits that one time."
It makes me it makes me I don't know why, but the Seinfeld, "Who doesn't want to wear the ribbon?" just popped into my head.
Yeah, I love it, love it.
Um,
Seinfeld, there was a Seinfeld reference that came up. Oh, it was on Screen Crush. They were talking about, I forget what role. They wanted if they were to ever reveal Uncle Ben in the MCU, that they wanted
mm,
it to be played by Jason Alexander so that George can have his date with Marissa Tomei. It's a long way to get there, but I was like, "Ooh, I like that. I like
that
that."
would be very meta.
Yeah,
Interesting. Yeah, see,
I wanna see that.
that's one of the things, like because like I said, the people that were pushing me to go see it last week were like, "You need to see it in large format, you need to see it in IMAX," and I'm like, "I'm not driving 2 hours to go to IMAX."
If you go back though to E. McNeil's to E's comment, it's the word enhances. So like that's the
Mhm.
thing, Johnny. Just go check it out. Like story wise, like you'll get most of it, but that other stuff is only gonna make it better. That's the repeat viewing. That's the. But if you can't, because I get it, like you got to drive 2 hours to go to an IMAX movie. That's
Yeah.
that's wild. But just check it out because it is fantastic. And what's up, John? Sorry, collecting brothers. I got
Um,
lost in the conversation and missed the chat.
that's okay. Dave's Dimension was here too. Uh,
Oh, yeah. I was saying that only to separate. I think I might be older than Johnny. Um, just to be clear, I'm turning 49 in August.
yeah,
So,
you are. I'm 45. We're the same generation though.
Ye-
It was interesting because this has been on my mind. A friend and I were having a conversation about labels. And it popped into my head when you started saying, lefty and woke and like things like that. Like our generation, and it's something that I hadn't thought about until recently. Our generation, like Gen X style, like really fought against any kind of labels. Like don't label me. We don't need this, that, like, but now everything has a label. And it's just interesting to see where that switch, I think, came in where everything needs to be labeled and labeled correctly.
yeah, yeah. You know
When
what?
our
Um,
generation was like, don't label me, don't put a label on me, don't put like labels are bad.
I've had this conversation as well, and one thing we arrived at is it was different. It's kind of it ties into that earlier comment I made about corporations versus like that free open democracy thing. The
Mhm.
issue that I think we're seeing now is that isn't so much that we are more accepting of labels or want labels. I think one or maybe a different angle to that is in the past we had labels imposed upon us that were really loud and confining, right? So it
Mhm.
was all defining. It was like, I'd walk into the warehouse or that was a record store. Oh shit. Sorry, that's my one. Um, I was gonna say you'd walk into the warehouse and I was like, oh, sorry, let me explain. That was a record store. And then I'm like, oh, let me explain. A record store is right. So um where you had to, yeah. But anyway, you'd walk into the warehouse and you'd look up. I used to work at one of those the warehouses, and it was like soul, R&B, pop, rock, right? And so there were clear genre defining things, and almost like where you stood in retail space almost sort of like outed slash defined you, right? You're
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, it's a rock ass over there, whatever. And so much of that was driven by the market, right? The need to like slap a label on it so that some A&R dude or some radio dude could sell it to you, or like you would know which radio station to put it on, right? We were very much in boxes, right? Oh, I listen to K Rock as an LA thing, so I must listen to alternative and new wave. Oh, I listen to oh my god, I'm blanking now. KNAC, the metal station, or I listen to K Day and listen to hip hop. Like it was very much like that. Nowadays, every like you and I are you're hosting a TV show essentially. You're running
Mhm.
the studio, and so this is Geek DF Out, and there's Vector's channel, and there's the Brick Something channel, there's the Shiny Happy People, there's GDL, there's the Collecting Brothers, there's like a million and one people creating things. So like there's a million and one labels out there too. And I think that has some effect on for us, it was like, don't label me because I'm a corporate, like, don't put me in that box. Now it's like we can kind of self-define, and I think people embrace that in a different way than we were kind of used to. So, and I think it's one way that community happens. Like people are trying to define things so that people can come in and sometimes keep people out. And unfortunately, I think yeah, obviously it has some negative. Um, I don't. It can be treated negatively.
Yeah.
So
S So it's like a difference of being, like you said, boxes, being put into boxes by other
right.
people versus
Yep.
self-defined boxes
Self-defining.
and labels.
Yep.
See, it's funny
Yeah.
because, like, I think of it like, and maybe this is an aspect of, because I haven't thought about that in ages, about how that, especially in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, it was very much a generation of don't put don't put me in a box, don't label me,
Don't put baby in
etc.
a corner. Right.
Yeah. Um, like I do art. Like I do like my leather masks, and I,
Hmm.
paint miniatures, and I've done some canvas paintings. But I would never come out and call myself an artist. It just, to me, it feels pretentious. Like,
Hmm.
and like same thing with, like, I've had people call me and like, you're very they've described me as very empathic, but I would never come out and be like, "Oh, I'm an empath." It just feels like,
Sure.
feels weird to me to say I'm this, I'm that. So maybe that for me is an aspect of that same kind of like formative years, being averse to being labeled and putting labels on things.
We're cut from a similar cloth in that regard. It like before we started, we were talking about how we create projects that nobody sees, and we're good with that. I think that also comes from a similar place because like Um, I'm barely in my late 40s, about to be 50. I'm barely getting comfortable with the idea of either self-promoting or yeah, I'm an artist or I'm a musician. It's like literally within the last, I'd say 3 years that I've gotten more and more comfortable just saying, yeah, I was in a band. Yeah, I'm a musician. Cause just like, and most people are like, what? And that's the one criticism that I've gotten consistently throughout my life is that people are like, dude, why are you so closed off? Why are you so secretive about all the things you do? And it's not that, right? It's not as it's kind of what you're saying. I was like, oh, I'd like to let this stuff stand on its own. And if I hear people going like, oh, that's dope art or that's dope music, I'm like, I'm good. Like, I appreciate that. That's great to hear. But then I'm not gonna go look at I'm a bassist and I don't
I'm
know.
an artiste.
And it what's weird Johnny, is that that's how I am with me. But then I know people who are like good, like I do this and it doesn't bother me. Like I'm not like, oh, they're pretentious. It's just this thing that I only apply to myself. And
Yeah.
oftentimes I respect, like I'm like, oh, that's dope that you embrace that and you can just do that. So like in some ways, maybe I'm kind of envious. Like, damn, how are you so comfortable with that? And I've
Yeah.
just got this like I blame Catholicism, honestly. But
Yeah.
anyways,
Same thing. I went to Catholic school for
see,
9 years, so I am 100%
there you
with you.
go.
I feel
We
like
figured it out.
maybe a little bit of it is some like imposter syndrome kind of stuff too. Like, I
Mhm.
remember when, particularly with like the Motu Revolution streams we did, where Kayla got freaking Ted Biaselli to come on and talk with us. Like, how did she do
Yeah.
that? Like, I never would have even like thought to send him a message, because who the f am I that he's gonna even
Right.
reply and come on? But like for this, I was like, screw it. So I sent an email to Will Wheaton because I'd like to. I'm like, come
Nice.
on for a casual chat. He hasn't replied, but I sent the email. I sent it to
Yeah.
Seth from MTG Goldfish because I'd like to, just sit down and talk with him. Like, why not? I sent him the email. Again,
Yeah.
hasn't replied. So I have not had the success rate that Kayla has had with
Ah,
getting people to come on, but I sent
yeah.
emails. So that's the thing that matters.
It's funny. It's all in here, man. It's a mind game. That's what I try and tell my students. In addition to trying to give them the content of history or whatever it is, it's like outlook, resiliency. Like it's cool. Be humble for sure, but also like be assertive. Like don't be scared and be comfortable. Like walking into a room and telling yourself that you belong there as much as anybody else. So it's like you sit there and you're like, yeah, why wouldn't I just email this person? What's the be? Or why wouldn't I just DM them? Worst comes to worst, they just ignore you. Like,
Yeah.
but I don't. It sounds like you have a similar thing that I do. I feel like I'm shedding that where you're like, oh, but what if they think this or like who
Yeah.
am I? And you're just like, what
Mhm.
is that? That's some messed up lizard brain stuff.
I think some of it makes me think of like growing up, I always had this expectation that like I was gonna hit a certain age and everything was gonna click and I'd get it together. Like, d- spoiler alert, your parents, they didn't know what the F they were doing either. Everybody was just doing the best they could, figuring it out. There was no magical age where you became an adult and had all your ish
Yeah,
together and everything
yeah,
was like it didn't happen. And I think there was this weird
that is.
expectation that it would, and I don't know that I'm the only one. I think it was something that like I don't know, either pop culture that we grew up with or our parents in a way like kind of just made it seem like when we got old enough we just have it all figured out, and that is not it does.
Oh,
You don't just end up getting it all figured out.
100%. And I think you mentioned pop culture. I definitely think that well, obviously like culture influences everything, especially pop culture. As people inhale it, there are messages there, whether you realize it or not, that get reinforced, right, or weakened in some cases, and get you to kind of challenge the order. But so I think about like what you just said. Like there's this premise that once you hit a certain age, magically something happens, or
Mhm.
and so there's some science to that in terms of like brain development. Sure, there's things that we can physically do better with age, but no, and I think there's that myth of like, oh, you're just going to figure it out. That works against us because then when you don't, whether it's imposter syndrome or you feel like a quote unquote failure, right? That's all. I mean, that's all garbage, right? Like it's and so what you find is the people who can turn that off or put that on pause or on mute are able to do things that you're just like, wow, why were you able to contact Teddy BSLE or like here, a couple things that I want to address what John said, the collecting brothers, but that last one he said, Brick taught me to always shoot your shot. That's the thing too. On that note, John, it's like at a certain point you realize, oh, it's not even a shot. Like it's not like a big deal. Like
Yeah.
it's just like, hey, you want to come on the show? No, okay, cool. Like it's not even like a talking to Ted Biaselli, super amazing guy. And I was also blown away. I was like, oh, cool. We're talking with him and Nate on this thing.
Mhm.
And then over time, you're just kind of like, yeah, no, they're just has an awesome career and got a job and is a toy collector. And by the way, he got robbed, which sucks.
Oh
But
no.
and same with Nate. Nate's like just fan dude. I remember seeing him on like He-Man.org, and but incredibly talented, and I should say works really hard to develop his incredible talents. And
Mhm.
so at a certain point, once you start to put that all together and maybe you experience that a little bit in your life, and you see your own growth, you're just kind of like, oh yeah, if I just forget all that chatter about like, oh, this is an important thing you got to try, versus not just do it, see what happens. Fly casual, as Han Solo would say, fly casual, and you realize like, oh yeah, like 'cause if Han Solo isn't the poster child for just like, F it, just do, and eventually you'll figure something out, you'll
Yeah.
stumble into something good. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, with the like inviting Will and Seth on, it's like, well, if I don't do it, they're definitely not gonna come. They're not gonna magically show up.
Right.
If I do
That's
send it, the
Michael.
worst
Mhm.
thing that could happen is they reply and say, "No, sorry, I can't," or "I'm not interested."
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's funny with that, with like my whole like origin story for Geek the F Out and then the Sundered Veil
Yeah.
the streaming RPG show. I had no
Mhm.
designs on being a content creator of any sort, like of doing any kind of streaming or anything like that. Yeah, quit. Exactly. They're people just ask. Um and then I stumbled into these two projects at the same time and ended up being a content creator. But like
Yeah.
the unrealized projects, I probably have like 4 different novels that I started that are in various states of being written. But my thing with I have the ideas. My thing with actually writing is the physical act of pressing the keys to put all the letters in the right place. Like sitting down and actually doing the physical typing is what gets me. Not the not like writer's block or
The
figuring
ideation, or
out the
yeah.
story or putting it's the physical aspect of sitting down and just typing that doesn't do it for me. But and then like I bought this asset pack for Unity for making a online
Unity.
trading card game. I'm looking at
Oh, nice.
uh purchasing RPG Maker because I'm like, I could do like a Final Fantasy style video game. I have so many ideas for stuff that I would like to do that are outside the realm of my skills. I just got the 3D printer, which a friend had and it essentially lent to me. Permanent loan essentially is
Nice,
what it
nice.
sounds like it is. Um, but
I don't
man,
got room
that's
for it. Here.
basically, and he had 2 of them. Um, uh I'm gonna end up spending all weekend trying to get the print bed leveled so that like it's a older style filament printer, so it's not a resin
Okay.
printer, so it has like the little nozzle that goes around, and I'm gonna spend all weekend probably getting the bed leveled and the clearance is right so that when the nozzle spits out the filament, it sticks to the bed and stays in place. Right now, when it's moving, it ends up like wrapping up
There's movement.
all the
Yeah.
filament like a ball of yarn. Um,
Oof.
Nick,
Unity.
interesting. Yeah, I bought this. There was this whole asset pack on the Unity store for just trading card tabletop or TCG, yeah, trading card game like pack that I need to learn how to use. Cuz my friend Tim and I along with some other people designed a full trading card game set years ago. And we printed out the cards and used magic cards to proxy them and like play tested. And the game was fun, but we never got anywhere with it. Uh, so I bought this and I'm like, I could use that as my like test for the first set is like take all the cards that we created for that game and like import them into this engine and see what happens. But I got to learn to use the asset pack itself first, and I feel like that's going to be a long process. So I haven't made a lot of I guess progress
Progress or
process and
movement. Yeah,
progress.
yeah, yeah.
It'll be a long process, and I have not made much progress on it yet.
Yeah. It's so funny. Because you and I were this whole conversation around like projects that are not
Mhm.
finished or not finished, or just we do that don't see the light of day. Like that's kind of the story of my life. One, I have to give myself some grace that like I'm pretty busy. Like, I've got two kids.
Mhm.
Shout out. My oldest just graduated from 8th grade.
Oh, congrats.
So yeah, Thursday night we had that, and then today, actually, after this, like later today, we're doing like a pool party with a bunch of his friends that he grew up with that went to different middle schools, and they're all sort of, moving on to high school as well as their younger siblings who are moving into middle school. But anyway, so there's that, which, you know, parenthood and family can keep you a little busy. And then there's the
I got
job
a
of
cat.
being a public school teacher. I mean, you gotta feed them, you gotta do but the
Yeah.
public school teacher and, dealing with everything that comes with that. Here in San Francisco, where it's like you're dealing with 1.5, like, ridiculous amounts of budget shortfalls, and just everything is politicized because we're San Francisco and we're an easy target for a lot of these people. And, so I'm pretty busy, and then there's this brick something thing. So it's like I have pretty much every figure that I've got, like, I film. And so people are like, "Dude, why do you sit on unopened stuff?" Part of it is because in my head, I'm like, I gotta open it and film it. But here's the deal,
Yeah.
none of that has become an actual edited video to be released on my channel. I've got a hard drive that's, like, filled with great footage that is to be edited. Um, and it's also because I'll say the words, I'm an artist or I'm a designer, and I'm just overly critical and like, "No, it has to look like this, and I gotta do the editing," and that's part of my issue too.
Mhm.
But between the Discord, which I wanna show you to the degree. Can I share on
I
this?
think so.
Do I have powers? Plus sign, here. So, like, it's not like, oh, I've done like a little bit of a channel. Like okay, so it's like I started this thing like a long time ago. Look, just November 18th, 2023. So there's this whole brick something um server that exists. But it's like then I got real geeky and ultimately with like graphics and stuff. And so then that's my thing and like using emojis and like so get fixated on one, how do I figure stuff out? Like I love that kind of nerdy thing. And then I get fixated on graphics and stuff. Like, oh, what is going to be the whole like design language of this thing? And what kind of experience am I trying to create? So like see this stuff? Like I'm laughing because it's
That's
not
awesome, though.
like
I love the, like, spoken real like, the old printer paper. We used that printer
yeah.
paper, those sheets made great Dungeons& and Dragons character sheets back in
Uh,
because we
nice.
started playing D&D in the early '90s when those printers were starting to go out of style, but growing up, with my mom was a teacher, my sister's a teacher, my best friend
There you go.
in high school and middle school, his mom was a teacher. So, like, cases of that green and white lined
Yeah.
paper just made we had so much of it that we just used to like doodle on and use as character sheets for D&D. It was great.
Yeah, no, and so, like, I'll spend time working on those graphics and figuring that out, and I'll spend hours, and it's like, but at the end of the day, I'm not like, "Oh, I need everybody to see that," and this is just me, but I look at that and I'm just like, "Wow," like, I get pride and joy having figured that out, like, even having figured out, like, how do I do a Discord, and, like, okay, I've been on these other Discords that I love. What would be, like, a good way of communicating this or organizing this? And again, like, this is my fault for like becoming an Apple fan too young and early, or a Marvel Comics fan, where they create experiences, right? The whole idea of like curating a user experience. And I credit like Marvel, for example. It was like, oh, there's the bullpen, there's the language of like Excelsior and make mine Marvel. Like there were these things that sort of really just like, oh yeah, that's Marvel. It's dope. Like they have a language, culture, right? It's a culture.
Mhm.
Even like how to draw comics the Marvel way. Like there was really like a house style and a way of storytelling that was distinct from other comic book companies. And then you get to like Apple, the same kind of thing. There's like it's all about user experience, and really like that was, I think, a lot of the beginning of what we now call like, you know, UI design in the way that really centers the user.
Mhm.
So anyway, all of that stuff, like that's my design brain, but it's also my organizing brain and it's my nerd brain all kind of coming together. And yeah, I don't know. No one will ever join the Discord because it's never out there. But yeah, enough said, right? Thank you very much. Or yeah, that kind of stuff.
How much
God,
do
I love Marvel
you,
comics.
and this is me, so I wonder with how much we have discovered. Enough said, no prizes.
Yeah, exactly. The Marvel No Prize. Sorry, before you go to that thought, that's what I'm talking like this. I created like, or I wanted to have like a look, and this is very obviously like Marvel comics. This is like you can tell what era I was collecting Marvel comics in based on like the masthead. Yeah, there you go. And
I
so
love it.
thank you, man. And it's just like that. You know, it's to the point where yours says August 2022, number one, because that's when I started the channel on my birthday,
Yeah.
August 14th, 2022. So it'll keep that. But then for a while, when I was actually editing and making videos, so like this one came out like this was I think my third video in September. So it has an issue number and it's just like super nerdy stuff. And like well before that, I was doing these like Lego minifigs. So I like of course I created a Lego card back that like, you know, simulated like the Kenner experience and all of that, and kind of came up with a name, Well Played, which is Lego is a portmanteau of Lego, which is uh, means well played. Yeah, play well, which means play well. So anyway, I'm a nerd.
I'm gonna
You were
keep my
gonna say,
fingers crossed so I remember that. But to piggyback off what you just said, uh, like my design philosophy, because I don't know if you know, I probably don't.
yeah,
When I first went to college, my major was graphic design.
okay,
I ended up not finishing because the design fundamentals class and I did not get along. Surprisingly, I really liked my art history class, uh,
mm,
but design fundamentals. The thing that really got me with design fundamentals was a particular project that was a 3x3 grid. So basically a tic-tac-toe board,
hmm,
and the assignment was to take like, so we made a 3x3 grid and cut like 5 squares out of construction paper, and we were supposed to arrange the squares on the grid in an interesting pattern.
sure.
So I did that, and the teacher was like, that's not interesting enough, do it again. I'm like, okay. So I did it again,
Sorry,
and they came back and they're still like, that's not interesting enough. Do it. I'm like, it's interesting to me. Well, how does that mean
it's
it's
so
not interest? It's design.
it's it's so old school, man. That is so old school teaching or just bad teaching of just like if I keep shaming and you know, like giving this impression that there is a right answer and that you don't have it, that's
Yeah.
somehow gonna make give you the grit to push forward. And it's such garbage teaching. That's horrible. Like, but um yeah, anyways. So was there like some kind of like great solution they were looking for? What did they want
That
you to
I
realize that, you know?
that I do not remember. I don't
Uh,
remember because I got so fed up with being told that what I found interesting. I'm very into, like, if you look at any of the thumbnails that I've created, like, and you
mhm,
can tell which ones are mine and which ones are Kayla's. Uh,
mhm.
I'm very into symmetry and minimalism
Timothy.
in my
Mhm.
stuff. So
Yep.
that's what I found aesthetically pleasing and interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm gonna shame that was the
No,
and it may not have been the
horrible.
class, it may have just been that instructor, but I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know because I got the instructor that I got, and that was the experience I had, and that's part of the reason why I
yeah.
just completely lost interest in it. Um,
What's their name?
I couldn't I don't remember at this
Let's
point.
shame them. Come on, let's get hand some of that shame back.
We're talking, like,
A-hole.
nearly 30 years ago at this point, but I still very clearly remember that experience and that being why I didn't like, so not to toot my own horn here, but, uh,
Toot away.
let me pull up because it's not actually on my, uh
Real quick. There's the product placement. Is Chris still here? If you're not here, shame on you, because look, you're here.
yeah, I did notice that his logo was there. I'm gonna share my screen. This is from oh crap, which one is it? Okay, that's the right one. Oh, I clicked the wrong button.
They do Quip. They do.
So let me see here. This is
Oh, I see you.
so this was I was doing like songs of the day stuff. So like
Uh-oh.
this is my art and this is my
Oh,
design.
nice.
With lyrics from songs
A certain song each, yeah. I
that
didn't catch that other what was that song reference, the other one?
this was Vast from Vast called Touched.
Oh, I don't know them.
Vast is visual audio sensory theater. Good band.
Hmm,
I would suggest checking out their stuff. Um, it
cool.
has audio, but I don't know if I set it up to share, and maybe I don't want to play it because it might get. Uh, this one's
Sure.
from uh, Vertical Horizon from We Are. 7 days and not a return, 7 lives and not a thing learned. So that I mean that was my design for that. But like
That's cool.
going
I love this. These
this one here is from Guster, Simple Machine.
man, I'm loving that I don't know any of the bands you're referencing. I gotta check it out.
Uh, from Splendor, Irresponsible. I don't
I
didn't
love these little, like,
include.
design puzzles like that. Like,
Yeah,
this is
it
basically what your teacher's sort of, I guess, kinda trying to do. Let's create a puzzle and then, like, let's not deal with the computer, let's not deal with even, like, figures, let's do shapes and, like, quote, unquote, "make something interesting." So I actually really like the assignment. I definitely don't like the
yeah.
the way it was handled, but, like, conceptually, so, like, all of these things, like, little doodles, like, quick things, but you're using design thinking and trying to, like, solve a problem, communicate a larger idea, whether it's a song or whatever. I love that.
Yeah, so
You were
this was
doing these, like, daily or
I
something?
I was trying to do them daily, yeah, just song of the day
Yeah,
at the time, songs that were in my head
nice.
that may or may not have had meaning to me. So like this one is from Splendor, their song Spin, and the lyrics I actually quoted in this one. Well, you had a hard day of pushing me away. Please don't push, I fall easily, and that's what inspired the little stick figure falling through the stars.
Yeah, that's cool.
Um,
Look at you
this one
designing your,
from
hair and facial hair there too.
Thanks. This one from
That's a feat, man.
Incubus, from Pendulous
Awesome.
Threads. There's an amassing armor that's building you into a boar. So like the heart with steel plates on it and the broken arrow, like
Mhm.
Cupid's arrow couldn't pierce the heart because of the
Yep, yep,
amassing armor. Um,
yeah,
then
closed off.
this from Danielle ate the sandwich from What I Needed.
These bands that you're naming, so, like, I only like, I know Incubus. What kind of music? Are they different genres or
Yeah,
they're totally not at all on my radar?
I would say Danielle Ate the Sandwich is solely ukulele songs. She just plays
Oh,
the ukulele. Splendor and Virgo Horizon and Vast, and they would all be and Guster would all be like what you would hear on like an adult alternative station.
okay.
Guster, so if you're gonna check out any of them, Guster is probably my favorite, currently my number one band. Like my top three have always been Pearl Jam, Incubus, and Guster in some order. Right
Mm-hmm.
now, in recent years, Guster has probably been my favorite of the three.
I gotta check that out. Yeah, I definitely. Who's this?
This
Stage
is
show?
from an
Whose stage show is it?
Incubus concert.
Oh, got it.
Pictures I took at an Ink, because I did this for Pearl Jam too. I think there should be one on here that was from.
Pearl Jam's come up recently. It was on Quip and Jay's. I don't know if it was After Dark this Sunday or the main show where there was like
Oh,
a
really?
little bit of side conversation about music and Eddie Vedder, and I
Mhm.
started sharing with Tony uh, my sort of like experience with Pearl Jam stuff, and
Mhm.
it took me down this rabbit hole of nostalgia and memory, and like having to do that dance that you and I seem to do in our brains of like, oh, is this like weirdly too name droppy or braggy or, but like, you know what? I'm gonna throw all of that stuff out. Oh, that's what it was. That Gary and Jay went to it. So I'm gonna throw all that stuff away. So I can't help it. I get insecure. So I'm just gonna say this. I don't mean to be name droppy. I don't mean to be like, hey, look, I'm so cool and I've had all these experiences. But I'm just gonna tell these stories because I'm realizing in my old age that like, no, I've got some stories to share.
Mhm.
So it started with, um, I guess I'll go in reverse his no, I'll go in, yeah, reverse order. They said Pearl Jam concert, and I remember, like, in high school seeing Pearl Jam a couple different times, and enjoying them, like, in large concerts, Lollapalooza or whatever. I remember not getting into one, but that's a whole story, and instead, like, not getting the tickets that we thought we would from someone who had it in, and then ending up to go see, Star Trek: Undiscovered Country instead. Um, but, uh, aside from that, like, I used to do a zine as a kid, and, I was a high schooler, and this was the time when sorry, Netflix, what am I doing? When alternative was, like, blowing up, right? Uh, I was doing the zine in, like, ninth grade, so this would have been 1990, 91. Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit hits in that, my freshman year, and so that becomes, like, the thing like, the record labels are all like, "Can we get
Mhm.
this new alternative thing or this punk thing?" I was, like, hardcore sorry, unintended. I was hardcore into the hardcore scene, so, like, straight edge hardcore stuff out of Orange County, out of LA, punk stuff, and that was, like, the early '90s. This was all the beginning of what eventually becomes known as emo or screamo that people use. So, anyway, Pearl Jam. I'm doing the zine, and then one day, like, this is the Singles. Remember the Cameron Crowe movie, Singles?
Yeah, Singles was a big deal. That soundtrack was phenomenal.
Exactly, and so, obviously, it's Cameron Crowe, so his soundtracks are always amazing. Music drives a
Mhm.
lot of his filmmaking, and so it's the biggest thing on MTV. They're like, "Ooh, Singles is coming out, and Pearl Jam's has actually, acting in it, and Soundgarden members are acting in the movie because they're in it, and, of course, the soundtrack." So anyways, I get, in the mail
Good
through
old
because of my
Citizen Dick.
zine. Yes, I get an invite and, with a +1 to the Singles premiere party in LA.
Oh,
I grew up
nice.
in Downey, California, which is, like, less than 20 miles outside of downtown LA. And so I'm like, "Okay, cool." Like, total punk, indie, super punk, like DIY, Xerox zine, but they're just going like it's scattershot. It's not because you have any, like, real following, or it's just like, yeah, this kid or this person's doing music stuff, and that's, we're trying to make it as legit as possible. Let's bring in these kids to the Singles premiere party that we're gonna, like, turn into a TV thing on MTV. We're going to film it and show it. Became the singles premiere party, basically. And so you watch the movie. I took my brother, who's 5 years older than me. He was also in bands, like music. We were both into bands. So like music heads or whatever. So we go check this out. We watch the movie. That's cool. It wasn't like, they say it's a singles premiere party, but what they do is they have like a nice theater. It was at what they now call what do they call the Man's Chinese? They call it something else Chinese. It's like this big Hollywood theater. It was in Iron Man 3 or 2, where
Grauman's?
it looks like a Chinese facade. Yeah, I think it's Grauman's now. Grauman's. It used to be called the Man's. Anyway,
Yeah.
so they're in
I've
like
been there, not inside, but
different
I've walked
theater.
past it.
Yes. So they're the celebrities, and they do like the red carpet thing in the Grauman's or Man's, but it's like a different theater. And then they send the rest of us into like this other theater. So they're not even in the movie watching it with you or whatever. But the best part is the premiere after party. So you go to this hotel, beautiful room, like classic LA hotel ballroom. And so we're there, and it's like they're running it down. It's like Alice in Chains played, the women from Heart and other folks play the Battle of Evermore, Zeppelin.
Yeah.
There was a band. They were called something else for like that project.
Yeah. It's on the tip of my tongue because I know that was my first
Lovemongers. Lovemongers.
Yeah, that was my first time I heard Battle of Evermore. So
Okay.
That's
And so it was them. It was did Soundgarden play? I forget it. I don't think Soundgarden played, but Chris Cornell was there, which was cool. So all that to say that when I was talking with Tony in the GDL thing, I was like, oh yeah, I've had the opportunity to meet Eddie Vedder a couple of different times, multiple times. And the first was then. So we're in this thing. There's this a-hole in like Vietnam era hard helmet, orange Hawaiian shirt, Hawaiian print shirt, like really tiny, and just like being an a-hole in the pit, like pulling people in that weren't even interested in being in the pit. And he's got his helmet on, so he's knocking to people. I was like, F this guy. So I'm like doing whatever I can to like elbow every time he comes by or try and trip him or whatever. Clearly drunk off his. And so then Pearl Jam comes up, and that same a-hole comes on stage, takes off his helmet, and it's freaking Eddie Vedder, and proceeds to play. And me and my brother are up front center to see Pearl Jam. I was like, oh, that's the dude that I was like intentionally hurting because he was out of self-defense. Because dude was like, yeah, it was. Anyways, it was a whole thing in the punk scene, at least where I was growing up. I guess you'd say I was woke back then. The whole Chicks Up Front posse, where they're like, yeah.
Knowing what I know about, not that I know him, but knowing what I know about Vedder from everything he's said and you've heard about him, he probably loved it. He was probably like, this guy has no idea who I am, and that's great.
Like, oh yeah.
Just
no, and he was really cool. Yeah, and I think he was in his own way rebelling against the whole singles thing, because it was just like he even started the song with like everybody loves us, everybody loves our town, like this whole notion of just like the whole Seattle thing had the year that punk broke, right? This whole notion that like it was overbloated, and now here's this movie and we're in it, and like we're in a Hollywood premiere party, and he was just like, this is stupid, let's just tear the place apart or whatever. Anyway, that said, we ended up watching him. He stage dive. I'm like holding him up in the front, like it was cool. And I was like, oh shoot, that's Eddie Vedder. That was my first interaction with Eddie Vedder. But I will also say, so I started down this nostalgic rabbit hole because I videotaped that singles premiere party when it aired on MTV. And me and my brother are standing behind Ricky Rackman as he's introducing, I thought it was Lovemongers, but I wish I could find it because there's only a couple of snippets on YouTube now of it. But like somewhere I have that VHS. But yeah, like he's like, and next up playing da-da-da, and everyone claps, and then there's like pan over. But like me and my brother are standing behind Ricky Rackman. We're like, oh, just like, trying not to be super awkward. Because it was a weird thing. Like you're watching a show and then they're all of a sudden, okay, everybody look good. We're gonna film this segment. We're like, wait, what? And then we turn and oh, we're filming now. And then, just seconds later or earlier, you're like looking at him talking to Chris Cornell, and you're just like, oh, hey, that's Chris Cornell are talking. And then someone yells at you because like, shut up, they're interviewing. It's like, oh, my bad, they're filming something. So it was like a surreal, weird experience. Mind you, I'm like 16 at this time. My brother's 21, and we're just like, where the hell are we? Like, and then I've got that punk brain where I was like, this record label's like inviting me to come to this thing, or like this is all garbage. And then like Eddie Vedder's doing his thing, and I at that age I kind of respected it. After I realized it was him, I was like, oh, okay, good play. You're like doing your best to try and like weirdly sabotage this thing. He like pulled down the lights and stuff. Like he was clearly doing the Eddie Vedder thing. But anyway, so there was that moment, and that and Pearl Jam comes up like quite a bit in my life, weirdly. So anyway, that was cool. And if anybody has that, and if anybody can find that footage of the singles premiere party on MTV, man, I would love to see it. Because one, it was a dope show. Like it was, like I said, Alice in Chains. I got to see Lane Staley, like before the end times. The Love Mongers, Pearl Jam. Who else? There was a couple people. Dude from Tad was there. He's singing with like all these like Seattle bands and punk bands. Oh,
Screaming Trees and Mudhoney were on that soundtrack.
Screaming
too,
Trees. So. Yes, Mudhoney. And there's the other band that I'm forgetting that they ended up being famous. They had like a one hit thing that broke through, but they were like huge in the sort of punk indie scene. For doing a Rest You Please, Mrs. Robinson.
The cover
Simon Garfunkel cover. Yeah, whoever they were. So all these guys were there to like hang out with their friends and bandmates, band friends, probably people they played with. And then for the last song, they freaking play Keep on Rocking in the Free World. And like everybody's on stage. Yes. No. Was that who it was? That's not who I was thinking of. Sorry.
That was the 1992 cover.
Yeah, with that's right. But I think I kind of mixed them up as a different band I'm thinking of. Anyway, it was cool. They did Keep on Rocking in the Free World. They literally, Eddie Vedder literally like tore down the lights, and they just ended the show because like you couldn't do TV production anywhere. The lights were falling, and you could see the MTV people were pissed. And I was like, okay, this is cool. Like I got really into it. I was like, all right, let's go. I would love to see that footage. I would love to see me and my brother standing there awkward. And then I tried to look for my hand holding up Eddie Vedder when he stage dives, because I had a relatively rare swatch that had an X on it, which is like, not a lot of people got it, but like a lot of straight edge kids wanted it because it had an X on it. And so I was looking for like my X watch holding him up, but then I realized, oh yeah, this is before 4K and HD, and everything looked like they're like blobs. Like that's the other thing about like you young kids. We watched TV and everything was blobby. It was like we had like needed glasses but weren't wearing them. Like everything was so blurry. And so anyway, that was one of my first Eddie Vedder Pearl Jam stories.
My most relevant one is probably I went to PJ20 weekend in Alpine Valley in Wisconsin, and got to see Chris Cornell was there, and they did like a whole set that was Temple of the Dog songs. So that was really cool that I got to see that. And then they in recent years before his passing, they did a whole Temple of the Dog tour that I didn't get to go to, but I had gotten to see them do basically almost the entire Temple of the Dog album at that Pearl Jam 20 weekend I think it was the second night that he came out and they did that, because it was a 2-night weekend festival. So that was cool.
You seem like you might have like a higher voice than me. Whenever we get together, we have to do karaoke and do Temple of the Dog.
Do hunger
I
strikes?
call Eddie because I can reach Eddie's
Yeah.
voice, his range. You can handle Chris Cornell.
Uh, sounds good to me. I have to make it out there again. You've got about 10 minutes. You had a cutoff of 9:30 your time, so I'll just rapid
Oh yeah,
fire
yeah,
through
yeah.
some of
I
this stuff.
I I checked with them. I don't know how much time you have, but I can actually go till 10 if you wanted to.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I
fine.
know if
That's
you
great.
wanted to.
I'm relaxed. I got nothing going on. Um,
Cool.
so these are some of the canvas that I did. This is actually
Oh,
based
sweet.
off Pearl Jam's uh their song "Smile" from No Code has a lyric. It says three crooked hearts swirls all around. I did the crooked hearts. I didn't do the swirls.
Mm.
And then
You know
this
what
was
that right there reminded me of?
this
The Police Synchronicity. I don't know
interesting.
if you're familiar with that
I don't know
album
if I'm
cover.
familiar with that
Check it
one.
out
No.
someday. They're like 3 digital characters, red on black field, but
Interesting. And then this was just an original thing that came to mind
no,
that I did. So that's one
that's
of my
cool.
paintings. And then like this, I made this. My cousin is in the Air Force, so I made this for her. Um, this was one of the leather masks that I did.
Yeah, that's
And then
beautiful.
this one, thank you.
When you say real quick, leather, but you're getting a shape, so is that on a backing of some sort, or how does it keep shape?
So vegetable tanned leather is really interesting to work with. So when you're working like to make a mask out of vegetable tanned leather, you soak it in warm water until the bubbles stop. You basically drown it. Cuz when you put it in water, it'll bubble and you'll see bubbles come out of the leather. And you soak it until there's no more bubbles coming out of the leather. And then you can tool it, which is like you can shape it and you can use tools for tooling that
Okay.
like
Mhm.
are either stamps, like the stars in this are stamps. Um, the line work was all done with like just like a blade. Uh, and then when it dries, it will hold its shape once it dries out. And you can either dry it fast by baking it at like 200 degrees in an oven or just letting it sit and letting the water evaporate out of it.
Mm,
So
mm,
it's just leather that is shaped. And then once it dries out, it holds its shape. And like this, I made
mm.
for my friend Bo's wife for her birthday. He asked me if I could make something for her, and she was really into like sacred geometry. So I did the sacred geometry tree of life at the top and designed that. So like this is all designs I've done.
That's
These are
cool.
and then this was
Fox is
I
cool.
based this whole thing off this. I found this piece of jewelry at a Hobby Lobby, the middle part. Um
Mhm.
and just designed the rest of the mask around it based on the fact that it had like lotus petals. Uh, so from the guy who told me stuff was my designs were not interesting enough. Uh,
Nah,
I
yeah.
tend to disagree. I did
Yeah,
these
I
for
mean,
my
that dude was on one.
I did these for one of my D&D groups. I made like a coat of arms for each character that was in the group.
Oh, that's cool.
Um, I'm really into
Hey,
obviously
Street
I'm really
Fighter.
into masks and I loved Vega as a Street Fighter
Mhm,
2 character, so I got that mask.
mhm.
I did this wood burning. Now I didn't design that logo, but I transferred it to the wood burning. So, and this is one of the most recent uh canvas
That's
paintings
cool.
that I did. My brain stopped working there. And this is again based off an Incubus lyric. You're a skeleton key opening me. Your mind is original. All like all based
Oh,
off
that's cool.
all
Is
based
that
off lyrics.
Sacred Geometry 2 in the back, or
It's
it's kind of a
just mandala, I think is what the term
mandala?
was
Yeah.
for. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um
Ooh, go back to that the black one to the right of that.
this I can't take credit for this
Yeah,
design. I stole this design.
it it's
The
pretty.
one of the mask makers, Mara Mask, is she's done a lot of work for like she's done masks for like Cirque du Soleil and TV shows and movies. This is one of her
Uh-huh.
original designs that basically now she didn't have a pattern or anything, so I did the work in like drawing it out myself and figuring just like based off her design. But this was
Mhm.
actually used in the Sundered Veil, for one of the main
Oh,
antagonists for Chimera
nice.
was the lion, the dragon, and the goat. So this was, and they all wore masks based off, one of them was the
There.
lion,
Yeah,
and this was his mask. Did I have?
that's cool.
Yeah, you
I
can
like that a
see.
lot because there's the overall shape and that sort of like frills on the side, and then
Mhm.
the line work kind of like are working together to communicate the line, but not really exactly be a line. There's still like some abstraction going on. It's cool.
Mhm. Thanks. I think that's it for. I did make this. This was a prop. Uh,
That was
I
my
took.
obligatory AWOC reference without making an AWOC reference. But yeah.
Um, Thank you, Thunderhouse. That's great. I'm missing a
Yeah,
lot of the
man.
praise that I'm getting in the chat because I'm focused on the screen I'm sharing. But
Yeah.
we'll come back to it. Um, this I had a plan to do like a Green Ranger cosplay that was like a medieval Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Green Ranger, and I wanted
Hmm.
a sword
Hmm.
in addition to the dragon dagger. So I'm like, what would a sword for the Green Ranger look like? So I made a prop
I love
sword
that.
from that, like the chest piece of the dragon Zord kind of worked in as the cross guard. And then the blade is basically a similar design to the dragon dagger blade, just scaled up.
Yo, has anybody done like that, like a period piece where the Power Rangers go back and
I
then what
don't
like what would they look like?
They did like an episode of Power Rangers that was like Old West, but I don't think they've ever gone like back to like medieval times.
Mm, okay.
Pardon me while I blow into my flute dagger while wearing out. Yeah.
I mean, that's
um
actually, that I could see that working in sort of the medieval times, the flute little gag on the sword. That'd be kinda cool.
so that was everything I wanted to toot my own horn about from an artwork
I
perspective.
love that, man.
Thanks.
Let's toot. Well, this is our therapy, man. We
Yeah.
gotta get over, those voices in our head. Goddamn voices. Here, I'll toot. Let me toot. Let me tell you my second,
Yeah.
second sort of Pearl Jammy story, but it also is like Brick in his younger days story. How do I get to that window? So this was my band for 10 years essentially. This is the recording of the last record, the fourth record. And so this is related to hey, that's me with long hair. Uh that's me with like that mask. It was like I was wearing that mask of yours. This is Matt Bayless who engineered and produced the record. He was in a band called Linus the Bear, Seattle band. Great dude, but he had me. Sorry, rewind. This is us recording here at Tiny Telephone in Francisco, but then to track some stuff later on, we went here to Litho Studio in Seattle. So this is my Pearl Jam story. One of my Pearl Jam stories. Litho is owned by Stone Gossard of Pearl Jam, which I didn't put two together until I
Okay.
got there, and I was like, "Oh, this is Litho." Like I didn't realize like it was that's where we were recording. It was so cool. So it was basically just me and the engineer because I went up early um, and tracked in this room, tracked some keyboards in this studio room that like let alone Pearl Jam, but also like a bunch of you know really great bands that I do love have tracked in this room. And I was like, oh man, this is incredible. So this was Babyish Brick. I don't know what year this would have been. It's 16 years ago that we uploaded. Oh, 2008. So I would have been 20. No, bad math. 32, 30. I don't know. 1976. Come on, Brick. That's 24 plus 8. No, 32. Um, but that was 32-year-old Brick recording in that studio, which is really cool. Coincidentally, we got a call that interrupted the session for the people that were working there because what's his name? Uh Solo artist, really talented guy. I'm not super into his music. Dave something. Big band. He had like a Dave Matthews.
I was gonna say Dave Matthews Band.
Yes. So they were booked 2 sessions after us, and they like would block out like 2 months basically. That was like their thing.
Yeah.
But they canceled a couple weeks before that before they were set to come, because that's how we learned that their one of their dudes died. I don't remember if he was their violinist or what, had died in
Oh man.
bad like water skiing accident or something. Anyways, this is me in my old age reminiscing about the old days and remembering all sorts of stuff. But anyway, that leads to my other Eddie Vedder story, which was we went out to eat and we walk in and Eddie Vedder sitting there writing in a book, and the producer / recording engineer is like, hey, this is introduced us and stuff, and they knew each other and small talk, and he was hiding because he had just had a new kid. And apparently it's a thing that he did, because later when the guitarist and drummer came to town, they also went out with Matt to the same taco place, and Eddie Vedder was still there hiding, writing in his notebook, because he's just like, yeah, he had a newborn. So that was a thing that apparently Eddie did when I guess that was his way of getting away to write. He would go buy cheap tacos and hide in the Seattle taco joint. Decent tacos. And that's kind, coming from someone who grew up in LA. So
There, Nick says he
those
didn't
are
realize
my
you were in that band. He legit remembers seeing flyers for your band back in the day.
Oh, no kidding. What part of town or what part of the country, Nick? But yeah, we had I need to go find some old like memory cards and hard drives. I'm definitely getting that point where I'm getting worried, because I was like, oh, they're on hard drives, they'll be fine. And then
Yeah.
someone reminded me that hard drives fail.
I mean,
But I've got tons of photos of tours and stuff.
if it's stored on a hard drive and it's just sitting, it should be fine. Hard drives primarily fail if they get bumped while the plates are spinning. Even if
Yeah.
they're and sometimes if they're stationary and you drop them, like the heads, the arm
Heads.
can like, because they're basically advanced record players. They work like it's a
Right,
magnetic disc with an arm that is it's magnets instead
right,
of a needle. So if that arm hits the
right.
plate and scratches it, it can be disastrous. But most of the time, my Geek Squad experience is coming in here. Most of the time
Oh, okay.
when a hard drive fails, it's because it took a bump while it was spinning.
Okay.
Aside from like
And I
it
don't
got
even
flooded or was in a fire, like, but if it's just sitting on a shelf, it should be fine.
Yeah, I gotta go check them out. But like there are places that we got to see that like I barely remember in my internal wet hard drive of my brain.
Yeah.
So I wanna I was like, we ended up we played like across Europe a couple times, but we at one point, like the stuff that stands out are the places that I never ever thought I imagined I could go to. But we played in Moscow and one other place in Russia that I'm
Wow.
forgetting. And then I want to go back and see the Japan tours, because my family and I got to go to Japan last summer and are kind of lightweight thinking about going this summer if we can somehow swing it. There's some cheap tickets, waiting for the kids' passports to be renewed, and if we can do it. Oops, I shouldn't talk too loud. We might surprise the kids. But I want to see, because it's changed compared to when we were there, and I was there in 03, 05, and 08, I think. And my experience back then versus what it was last year was very different, and I kind of want to be able to see how different it was. And Nick, dude, we were like Bottom of the Hill was the venue that we played a lot in San Francisco, as far as like for the good chunk of our career. I guess that's what you call it, life as a band. I don't know.
Did you do I remember seeing something. Legion's Con is typically in Jersey, correct? Is
Yeah.
there a West
Yep.
Coast one now that they're gonna do, or they did?
So yes, this past the beginning of this month, it usually falls around Cinco de Mayo. weekend, but in Sacramento, there's a group of folks who brought them out. So Is the Wiz, who actually was in my house for the news last Sunday, Israel, who runs the Adam Power channel on YouTube. Like he was one of those first channels that introduced me to Mythic Legions because he was super prolific and like showing behind the scenes stuff and figures. And he's worked with Four Horsemen. He's a lawyer by trade, and so back in the when they left McFarlane, like this is like toy fan stuff, I guess is how they met, and they worked with Iz to do a bunch of stuff, like filing copyright stuff and all sorts of contracts. I think his main thing was contracts. So he's been working with them forever, and so he and Walter is the guy who runs this thing. Are you deep into Legion stuff? Like
No, I'm
does the
not.
Cabal? Okay.
I have
That's
not.
fine.
I have yet to get into Legions. I don't think at this point that I'm very. I've really pared down my collecting to mostly just Motu at this point.
Me too.
I'm
Yeah.
not looking to add anything. I did pick up randomly and that's what I took my camera off so I can move my screen and look around, because I had the yeah, I'm not doing Mondo Motu. F that. As impressive as they
Sure.
are.
No, this isn't Mondo. This is well, they are. This is classics.
Oh, is that classics? I have that somewhere.
Yeah.
Then. If it's classics, I've
pretty
much got it.
I grabbed this at that show. So anyway, he's been working with them, and then he and Walter of the Cabal, who started the like the main community on Facebook, he used to live in California, and together they wanted to like bring Horsemen out, and it's hard for them because they're in Jersey, right? Shipping and airfare and all that. So they were doing these street team things, and they were essentially like running a local show in Sacramento, and they've done it for the last 3 years. This last one was the third year. So I've been to the first two, and again, we suffer from the same brain worm that tells us, "Oh, be shy and be awkward," and so I'd go to these things, and like I've talked to them, but I was like, this year I was like, you know what? Hey, do you want help? Can I help with design stuff, marketing stuff, do stuff online? And so I helped organize this last one called the Mythic Meetup up in Sacramento on May 4th. And so I help with that. And ultimately my long-term goal is to do something similar, but here locally in a place on the East Bay, Union City. There's a shop where a couple of buddies, a toy shop. It's kind of like a big warehouse space, and they have a main store, and then they have sort of smaller stalls that people run. So some friends that I met online, Gil Lomas and Matt, Major Reaction, big Legions heads and indie toy fans, talking with them to do one here, kind of like a Bay Area proper one that isn't 2 hours away. So we are trying to do kind of like you mentioned Legions Con. It's meant to, both of these are meant to be more like localized spaces for Legions. And in my case, I really want like really indie toy fans to go to and kind of congeal and sort of get a sense of like the indie toy scene, all the customizers, all the customizing, the 3D parts, like stuff like this. Like this is Michael out of Oakland, Michael Duggar. Like, this is stuff that like, I don't know, I feel like one of your person's wearing your masks and your Power Ranger swords could hang out in one of these, or like, so like all these crazy talented people, check this out, like the rust paint on that. So wanting them to like have a venue to kind of share their wares in between Legions cons. So well, yeah, anyway, so organizing that, and that's probably what you saw. So show was great, and that's where I got this. Sorry, long story short, that's where I got this. And I got to reconnect with Nate. I see Nate every time we're at those, because he comes out and sort of is one of the representatives of the actual studio, flies in from Colorado. And I met him. Is this true? No, I didn't meet him on GTFO with Teddy. I'd met him at the Mythic Meetup, and then that was like one of the first times that we'd gotten to sit and talk again. So thank you, GTFO.
You're welcome. So like, yeah, I've mostly pared my collecting down to primarily just Motu. I was really into G.I. Joe Classified, but it got exhausting. There was so much coming out and a lot that I wasn't actually interested in. I did not hesitate to grab the battle armor Cobra Commander and the new version of Snake Eyes with the red goggles and silver face mask, because that was like the first Snake Eyes I had when I was a kid. So that's my favorite Snake Eyes design. I did pick up the Red Sonja, the epic hacks you posted in the, I think it was in the GDL Discord at one point. I did get, that's what I was looking for. I thought I had it sitting nearby,
Which
but I don't.
hacks the
The Red
particular figure?
Sonja, the
Oh yeah,
6-inch Red Sonja. And I did
Mhm.
pre-order their whatever their new their origins
Like
ish
5-inch
line.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have a Conan and a Red Sonja coming out. But one of the things I want to do with my 3D printer is do customizing. And the first thing, once I get it set up, the first thing I'm going to print is probably this.
Oh, that's killer.
Now this is the entire figure, and it's designed as like, I bought the STL for it. It's designed like the vintage figures, but I'm just primarily going to print the head and use it on probably Cartoon Collection Tila, because if you take her armor off, she's a really good like blank buck.
Yeah,
And I
it's
want to make
great buck.
the woman Cosmic Enforcer figure.
You
that.
should hit up. Do you know Kenny from Kenzo's Customs or Kenzo's
I've
Creations? I
seen,
think is the name of the channel.
yeah, I've seen his stuff, but I don't think we've ever spoken.
I totally.
I think he's done this
super
figure. That's where I found the link to this. He did this figure on his channel and linked to the STL because that's what he used. So that's where I actually believe I came across this.
I'm a fan of good people and nice people, and so he's one of those like yourself, like just super warm and nice, and like what I would call, I don't know, like fans that are like can still kind of keep it positive and just remember the joy part of fandom rather than the snarky, crappy internet part of fandom. But he'll be all about like telling you where to find stuff or helping you find stuff and printing tips or whatever. He's super good people. So if you don't know him, you should, because he's like ridiculous. And shout out to Nick, who's saying two things. I already mentioned the bottom of the hill, but Nick Dillinger's talking about Comic and Figure Addicts, which is the venue that I would love to do like a Bay Area Mythic meetup kind of thing. I was actually at the Mythic meetup with a AWOC table, a Spiro table, so I want to kind of bring that also here to the West Coast more. But I was just there at that shop this past weekend with I actually connected with Michael from Toy Habits. We went up to a store in Dublin called Pot of Gold, because that's kind of like 30 minutes from his house. And then after that, I drove down to Union City and ended up buying a couple of things. Sorry, so this is now the hauls part of it. No.
Yeah.
But this guy's pretty cool. I grabbed him at that store I was at with Michael. I was like, okay, $35, that's cool.
Chonky Dark Side.
Yeah, and I've been wanting him for a while, just kind of like never saw him, and I was like, oh, look, they have him. So he's cool looking, like beautiful, very Kirby, very superpowers.
Yeah,
take away the very like that superpowers design. And then from the Union City place that we're talking about, I got Kami Superman, which is rad. So this is that Comic and Figure Addicts for $15. Somebody had that in there. They also have like a lot of consignment stuff. So I think this sculpt is wild. Like I didn't know this figure existed. Come on.
I've seen the design before. They had the Red Sun comic. I didn't know they had a figure of him.
Yep. I didn't either, but like the face is actually really, really good. And then the last thing that I got there from them was they had some old Carver Customs is a Legion's community customizer. The dude was actually out here for the Mythic meetup, but he randomly
Mhm.
had some old ones that I picked up. I was like, oh, these are cool. So Comic and Figure Addicts in Union City, if you're ever in the Bay, that's definitely a place to check out. And Nick, I was telling him, just message me if you're ever gonna go, because I am actually gonna go there tomorrow uh, to connect with somebody, and then but I'm down whenever.
So did you end up you were planning on going to the New Jersey Legions Con at one point. Did you end up making it to one of them?
I did. I went this past November. That was my first. And again, shout out to Spiro Toys who brought me out there. Like, and so I'm gonna go back in November. Like, if it wasn't for them paying the way, and
Right.
like, I wouldn't go. But no, man, it's everything that folks talk about. That, like, the Legions community is awesome, but it really is. Um, there's something about the community that is it seems to like attract folks like yourself or myself who are into toys and nerdy things, but also like have this creative background. And there's a lot of like artists, there's a lot of musicians. As you talk to people, you're like, oh, a lot of us are drawn to this figure line as well as this sort of scene, because, like, people are sculpting those little works of art, or excuse me, creatively designing characters or whatever. Excuse me. So it was awesome. It was, and then you can apply to a raffle to do this thing called Intern for a Day with the Four Horsemen. And
Okay.
excuse me, you get a +1. I took my brother. The coolest experience, man. Just like, what do we do? You get to like see Eric Treadaway, who is the sort of like brain behind Mythic Legions, and
Mm.
sculpt. So like he'll show you. He talks for like 40 minutes and like asks the crowd. It was like 20 of us in groups. Um, like, what do you want? And people are like naming things like Wendigo and Pumpkin and Night. And then he'll like sculpt Wendigo Pumpkin Night like in front of you while he talks about stuff, and people ask him questions. And then you'll go to like do a tour of the studio, or go hear Cameron talk about painting, or Nate talking about design, or Trevor talking about photography. It was really, really cool. And as a creative person, both my brother and I, my brother is like also very creative. He's a Disney Imagineer. So like he was appreciating how like a small company hangs on to the same like design philosophy, and like, because they kept talking about like the end user and the end customer in mind, and storytelling. And these are all very Disney things. It's all about keeping in story, and every little thing is an opportunity for storytelling. Every little doorknob on the park tells a story. And
Mhm.
it's the same with Legions. Every little paint application on the sword tells a story of this character, and how, and it was fantastic. So we got to do that, got to meet a lot of people in that group that I was telling you about, that we were going around through Intern for a Day. In my group was freaking Robo and Darius D Amazing, and who else was in that? So yeah, they were in mine and my brother's group, and got to meet them and get to know them. And then in a different group, but in the same day, was Jared Toybro, Bill Dorkler, who's kind of always there. He's a big Legions guy. Like a bunch of these like YouTuber guys. And then at Legions Con proper, Dan Larson was there. And because I was hanging out with the Spiro Toys guys, like just the weirdest experience that I had, but the most awesome experience was Jason from Spiro being like, "Hey, let's all go up to the room and show Toy Bro, the amazing no, sorry, Toy Bro, Dan Larson, and Robo, like the newest prototypes or whatever." And I was like, okay. I'm sitting there with like Adam Highly Articulated and Jason and Derek and Sequoia from Spiro, with these guys who like I watch all the time. You get in that
Mhm.
mode, and I had to quiet that voice of like, dude, it's this dude's name is Jared. This
The
dude's name is Dan.
they're fans just like me.
And And the second they got the toys, like I'm sitting there with Robo, and we're like, "Dude, check this out! Oh, you could take this off, and you can move this." And we're like instantly like kids playing with toys, and like all of that stuff just washes away. They're just like you and I creating content earlier than us, with much higher subscriber and viewer rate, whatever.
Mhm.
But they're just cool people, like really, and they're there because they're fans. Like they weren't there because they were like shooting coverage, and I need to get like Robo especially was like, I'm not trying to do any. I'm trying to just be here. And lovely guy, poor guy though. He barely gets to like. I don't think he got to see anything. I saw him basically standing like a couple feet away from us at the Spiro table, and just person after person talking to him. He like never moved from that. We never saw the show. He was just walking around, just people talking with him. But
He's
so
another
yes,
one that
Legion's
I would
Con is
like
up.
to invite on to have a casual chat. I've never talked to him, but I'm
Me
sure
too.
that we could find stuff to talk about. Uh,
Oh,
because
yeah.
I enjoy him and Veebs do the Sunday night streams sometimes, and they get talking about cereal and food, and I'm like, this would be perfect stuff for.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna
No,
make it
man.
out,
That
if you're gonna make it out to Legion's Con in November again this year, New Jersey is only like 4.5 hours from me, so I might have to swing out and
go.
pop out and visit and say hi because I did get to meet
Go.
Ralph and obviously Kayla when I went out for the Getting Lost premiere, and I actually met Kayla and Toy Sorceress at the Fred's flea market thing somewhere. I forget where it was, but we went. It was
Frankenson?
basically Frank and Sons, yeah, not Fred's.
Yeah.
So I met
Yeah.
Toy Sorceress, but obviously did not get to meet you. So I'll have to maybe swing out to Jersey in November around Legion's Con and
Dude,
hook up with you. And
do. Yeah, please do. And I was surprised, like so like I mentioned those guys, but like a bunch of the people that like I hang out with regularly online, and even like I got to meet Oz for the first time that show. And like Thanos is here. I got to meet Thanos in person for the first time at that Mythic meetup a couple weeks ago, which is awesome. So like it's kind of cool to be able to see people like that in real life. And I got to meet the Toy Daddies. They were awesome. The Sentinels, Between Two Sentinels, a couple of the Toy Migo guys. Like these are folks that like I see all the time. And then Wade, who is from here, Unparalleled Universe, who's actually kind of is local, but it was cool. We got to hang out in the airport because we were both waiting for the same flight. Um, it's just a great way to like meet a bunch of cool toy fans. And then even if you're not necessarily going to run into like, because I know that can be awkward, be like, hey, I don't know you, have no reason to talk to you, let's talk. Not that anybody cares, they'd love it. But even just going from booth to booth and like who's at the show, it's like pound for
Mhm.
pound some of the most talented, creative, toy related stuff, right? So I mentioned Wade. Unparalleled Universe had an Odious thing, a booth. Josh Brown and D Blake makes, who like incredibly warm, awesome people, but super talented, creating like cool custom parts and signs that D Blake makes. Some of these crazy Dio Maker Shelf Gravy had like this gigantic, you would appreciate, like it was like a 3 or 4 story cottage, medieval cottage dio that someone actually
Oh
ended up
wow.
buying. um and like the folks I was hanging out with last night, highly posable, like um those guys were there too. YL and NYC Figure Fanatic was behind us. Like basically it's like this cool hub of a bunch of people coming together, and everybody's really chill and hang out way too late for my taste, but they just hang out at night in the hotel. Like it's crazy. That hotel is probably trips out on this thing because it's like this toy convention, and these people come from everywhere and they just don't leave. Like there's probably people there. I put money down that there are people there who are like in the lobby 24 hours just like hanging out and stuff.
Mhm.
So please do. Please come through. I am definitely going to be there. Uh yeah, so that's the plan at least.
Yeah, I'll have to look into it. You're mentioning the medieval dio because there's a couple rapid fire things that I want to go through here before we have to call it
Oh,
because
go
it
for it.
is
Yeah,
almost.
this is a good time.
Have you seen
Yes.
the seeming trend online of people making Millennium Falcons out of different Lego sets? I saw one that was like it was a Garfield Lego set that they made into a
No.
like apparently it's a thing that has gained traction. Like making Millennium Falcons out of sets that are not Millennium Falcons. So you'll have to look into it because you'll probably find that amusing. That also, you mentioned
Yeah.
the cottage diorama. There you go. Lego has a Dungeons and Dragons set that I really want to pick up and have not yet, but because it
Yeah,
is a
it's
little
gorgeous.
pricey, but it would probably go nicely next to when I eventually build my Mega Blocks or Mega Constructs Castle Grayskull and Snake Mountain.
Grayskull. That's
Um,
beautiful.
the D&D tavern castle dragon thing would be great to go along with that. They just opened a Nintendo store near you. Have you gotten to go to it? Are you
I
planning on going to it?
I have not been yet. I'm curious to go. I just haven't been. I was in the area the other day, and I should have just stopped in. It's downtown. I went to New York a couple years back,
Mhm.
and um,
I have a shirt and a
well,
Luigi
my
mug
kids were with
from
me
Nintendo World New York.
from there,
Yeah.
and I didn't actually go in. Like we were like, oh,
Oh,
let's go. My kids weren't interested, so I was like, okay. And then, but I should go. And I think that a lot of the reasons that I don't totally know. I want to go just to sort of see. I
mhm.
do wish it's a little bit like sterile is the right word, but like I would have loved a little bit more of like a themed store, like you know how the old
Yeah.
Disney stores used to be, or like the Funko
Mhm.
store up in Washington has full on facades and stuff. Like, but it's kind of just, and I appreciate the clean aesthetic, but it's like clean walls with Nintendo product.
Yeah.
And I've grown accustomed to the internet age of like I can see a lot of this stuff online. So
Yeah.
that's where these places I think need to rethink some of this stuff because if you want to get people into a space again, you have to give them something that's different from
Make it a
shopping
bit more of
online.
an experience just being there rather than
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Um,
but I haven't yet.
and are you interested in the Switch 2? I don't know how much of a gamer you are. If you or your
I
family
am.
have you
I
pre-ordered
am.
the Switch 2?
I did not. I heard
No.
you and was it you and Chris talking about it and how you're
Yeah,
like, I want to
I'm
get one and just in case.
I actually think next weekend's casual chat is probably going to end up being a Switch 2 release roundup with me and Shiny Plastic Chris and Vactor and
Nice,
maybe
nice,
Ralph if depending on
nice.
things. Um, it's either going to be that or James from Live Action Star Wars. I'm waiting on word from him, but I haven't heard a confirmation yet. So I think it's going to end up being the Switch 2 release roundup with at least Chris and Vactor and maybe Ralph if he's available.
Beautiful. I wanna hang out with Ralph someday. He and I we grew up in the same area, and I
Ralph is
remember like
great.
what. Yeah, it wasn't even like, oh yeah, we went to the same school. Like I know that kid. Like I saw him all the time. We were in the same little Catholic school, and then continued to the same Catholic high school. And like I always knew, to me, he was Denny Apple. Um, like he lived not too far from me. Like so, I just knew him. I saw him at church on Sundays as a kid too. So I would love to reconnect with him. Like we found each other on GDL. Actually, we're like, oh wait, you're from Downey. Wait, oh crap, you're that guy. I'm like, oh yeah. I'd love to connect with that
He
guy.
was I had him on he was on for a casual chat 2 weeks ago. We talked about
Yeah,
his
before
photography and
Chris.
stuff and
Yeah,
food.
that's how I
His
was on
food
there. I was
has
like, oh,
been
that's cool. And he does a whole series of pictures in our hometown too, which was kind of cool. He
Mhm.
was doing that for a while when he got like the one of the sort of like plastic cameras. I forgot what they're called, but
Yeah, the
yeah,
Holga. He has the pink Holga.
yeah, yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So we didn't talk much about food. So last thing before we wrap it up, are you Vactor will want to know Mexican pizza enjoyer? What's your
I
thoughts on the Mexican
don't
pizza?
I don't know what Mexican pizza is, and my immediate reaction is like, like it isn't disgust. I live in a reality where fusion food, like is some of the favorite stuff that I can get here now. So tell me about Mexican. It's not, we're
It's a
not talking
Taco
like
Bell
Taco
thing.
Bell, are we? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Sorry.
It's like 2
Eh.
tostadas with beans in and then meat and cheese and stuff on top. So
I mean,
not a Taco
that
Bell fan.
sounds No, I mean I used to be. I have been generally eating in a way where I don't have a lot of carbs, and then I
That's
go on these
probably good.
crazy cheat binges. And so I'm kind of in a cheat mode right now because we have like that party to go to and stuff. So this might be a time to be able to try that because you go in that mode where you're like deprive yourself or like have clear guidelines, and then when you don't, you're kind of like, well, I have to do this now, and I so this might be one of those things where I have to do the Mexican pizza.
You have to at least try it and come back and give us a
Yeah,
verdict.
but I will
But
say, hey man, fusion food.
yeah,
Like we're lucky up here. We've got a place called Senior Sisig, which is Filipino, built on some Filipino items, but like fusion with stuff. So there's like burritos that are amazing. And then there's what is there's a place that does Indian sort of, it's like a street food vibe, but they'll do like curry, like fries and mix it up with fusion. So I'm all about that. Or Koji Kitchen. Koji Kitchen does like Korean and fries and burgers and stuff.
mhm.
So I'm all about that. I don't know if Taco Bell. I don't know if I'm being a foodie snob. Uh, I
You'll
prefer my fusion artisanal and locally. I'm just kidding.
you'll have to go
Yes.
back out and check out my stream with Ralph from 2 weeks ago. So we also talked about I told him about taco burgers, which is essentially just mixing taco seasoning into your burger meat, and then you fry the burgers and
Hmm.
like top it with
Hmm.
like refried beans and like the fiesta strips that they would use for salads or whatnot, the little tortilla strips, or
Okay.
and use salsa instead of like ketchup and mustard if you want. It's really good. Or just taco sauce instead of ketchup
I
or
watched
mustard.
you and I did watch you and Ralph. I don't. I remember I remember him talking about photography and some Green Lantern stuff,
Yeah.
but if he was a big Taco Bell fan back then, I know exactly which taco. He was like a Paramount and Stewart and Gray. That was our Taco Bell, a couple blocks from my house. So, anyways, in my old age, I become nostalgic for those kinds of things
Yeah.
because you know
Yes. Yeah, I know how that is.
simpler times, I guess.
I was looking at they have Pizza Hut classics that are like Pizza Hut from the 80s with the table service and the chandeliers and the buffet,
I
and
remember those
there's one in
red and
Pennsylvania, but
white
it's not
everywhere.
super close. Yeah, but all right, Brick, this was great. Thank you very much. I'm glad you were able to extend a little bit and go. I don't wanna keep you anymore. I know
Yeah,
you said 10 was kinda your
no,
cutoff
all
now, so,
good.
Brick
I
something
miss
on
you, dude.
YouTube.
Like I miss. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like we said,
Sorry,
it's
I know
I don't
we're doing the YouTube. Say hello, say
yeah,
goodbye. But I just want to say I genuinely miss hanging out. Like we got to do that on GTFO now and then.
yeah, it's
We
been
don't see
too
each other
long.
a whole lot in the chats, and so it's been a minute. So please make it out to Legion's Con. Let's kick
Yeah,
it.
I will. Yeah, I don't do a lot of stuff live anymore because I like to save the streams and what to have on while I'm doing work because I work from home. So I'm
Yeah,
always like, what
replay.
and then I'm like, oh man, I wish I can't type. I have something to say, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
value having that stuff to listen to and watch in the background while I'm doing my
yeah,
work. So
yeah, yeah.
it's a double-edged sword. So I don't make it out to a lot of the live stuff anymore because I save it for during the week when I'm working. But uh I'm glad you were able to make it on for this. I'm only doing the
Yeah.
YouTube stuff because I don't know if it's expected of, like, I don't want to be like, bye. If you have something to plug it. But people know where to everybody in the chat knows where to find you. For those who
Oh
don't,
shit.
brick something on YouTube, uh,
Yes. Break
or
something on YouTube
bricksomething.com
Sundays.
will take you
Yeah,
and you can
that's
find
right.
everything.
You remember that? You remember that? Yeah, and I do a show on Sundays, 3:45. That's kind of my only regular thing. Like I said, I haven't been editing stuff and I need to. I'm supposed to be doing a ongoing series called Into the Masterverse with Cobweb, but
Mm,
editing is a beast and I'm not great to
yeah.
do it. And the AWOC stuff, of course, but I've now that summer's here, I'll be doing a lot more. But check it out on Sundays, 3:45, and then on follow me on IG or message me on IG. I'm super as you can probably tell from some of the chats. I'm like, hey, let's hang out, let's meet.
And that's
Because
3:45 Pacific time.
Oh, yes, thank
not
you.
East.
Sorry, I forget. Yes. Hello.
I'm sure we
Oh,
have
yeah, thank you.
we have
I'm happy
people in
to
every time
I'm
zone.
happy to be here. Yeah, I'm happy to be here, and if you're ever like, I don't know if you ever get nostalgic for talking about something you just saw, like if it's something I'm watching, I love doing that. I love coming here and talking about Motu stuff and yeah. So if there's
I mean,
anything that you're watching, oh, Sinners. If you watch Sinners,
okay,
you cannot do a
a stream without
show
you.
on Sinners without me. Then I'll be really pissed. I'm so, and that
I
was
will
my
keep
second one.
that in
So
mind. I will ping Kayla. I know as of right now, the next thing that I think is in the pipeline is the next season of Stranger Things, and I'm sure we'll want to have you on for
mm,
that. So, um, but anytime you want to do a casual chat too on a weekend, I'm down for it because this was a lot of fun, and I missed talking to you too, and everything. Your
yeah, man.
insights are always appreciated, and we discovered that
Yeah.
we have a lot more in common than I thought we did.
Yeah, I wanna
As
talk
far as
design and art and music.
yeah, and as far as outlook and like our upbringing experience, I think we're more in sync than we realized. But
Sure, let's talk about recovering from Catholicism as well.
yeah, Brick, I will let you go. Thanks everybody in the chat.